tell you, this video blogging really does a number on your sense of self-image, because in the mornings I look like a puff ball. I can't believe it. And there's this huge amount of bright sunlight coming in, and I'm pale as it is, so I look all washed out, so I have to close the curtain and da da da. By the end of the day, I don't look so puffy, but my hair's a wreck, and ugh. Anyway, today is day 2 of my Kickstarter.com project for 30 days, 30 blocks. And I just posted the video blog and photos of block number 1, so go back and check that out. Today I'm planning a block inspired by To Kill a Mockingbird, but it's not just inspired by To Kill a Mockingbird. It's also inspired by the numerous mockingbirds I've seen dive bomb either cats, people, or squirrels. I have watched my cat get dive bombed, my husband. I have seen squirrels chased into the street by mockingbirds. And sometimes I wonder if those dead squirrels that we see were chased out in front of a moving car by a mockingbird. My tools today, since I did a painting block yesterday, I decided to do a paper block today. So today my tools will be my trusty X-Acto knife, which everyone knows an X-Acto knife. Woohoo! You can use little tiny scissors for projects, but sometimes an X-Acto knife is just the tool. But I do have little tiny scissors. They're super sweet. They were my mother-in-law's. And a paintbrush, but not for painting, but for Mod Podge. Woohoo! Obviously, the block. And then here is a piece of paper with a mockingbird on it. This is a mockingbird that I did for stationery that I make. I make stationery calendars, I paint on glass, all that lovely stuff, and I sell it on Etsy. My shop, if you care to go look at it, is What's My Future, all one word, WHATS, my future. Then I have an old encyclopedia, and for you youngins, an encyclopedia is Google in a book. And I only have 2 of them, and I just happen to have the one that has Mockingbird. So I cut out a little square, a 2" by 2", the size of my blocks, portion of the Mockingbird, and it says, the next to the last sentence, it will attack birds twice its size. Now granted, it doesn't say anything about squirrels and cats, but we now know that to be true, as I have testified. Now, I haven't decided if I want to paint the block first or leave it its natural color. The natural color is smooth and pretty. It's maple. I get my blocks from a company that uses sustainable forest maple in Indiana. And apparently the trees are an invasive tree. They are not natural. I think maybe they come from Canada. They're not natural to Indiana originally, and now they are natural there. It's a sustainable forest, so I don't feel as bad. Sometimes I feel bad using products that aren't recyclable or recycled, but I do a lot of upcycling, so you know, I get rid of some guilt there. As you can see, it's the afternoon. The lighting has changed. I'm a little less puffy, and my block is probably about 3/4 of the way done. I decided to do paint as well as leave part of the wood showing. I used a mask made by Martha Stewart. It's a stenciling material that's kind of like contact paper, but less sticky and not so thick. I use this one template in particular a lot. It's lost its stickiness. So I had a little bit of paint come through. So here you can see I've got the paint, but then I also have the wood grain showing through, which I think is pretty. Yeah, I've got some rough edges. I don't know if you can see how rough. Yeah, pretty rough. I can go over that with more paint. I could go over it with a marker. I could sand it and just let it be intentionally rough. But I have Mod Podged on my Mockingbird. Lovely Mockingbird. One thing about my paper and my prints is if it gets too wet, it will bleed. And so my Mockingbird changed color a little bit, but it's not too bad. It's not as gray as I would have liked, but it doesn't look bad. I considered just repainting it, getting out my gray paints and painting it, but I'm not going to do that. But I sealed it with the Mod Podge, and that's what kind of made it run. I decided after putting it on the block, the bird on the block, to paint. So I used a paintbrush instead of a stencil sponge because I couldn't get in between the leaves or around the bird easily with a sponge. And that's why I got this roughness. That and the stuff's losing its stickiness because I use that one particular template a lot. I love it. I can make a new one. I just tend to use the same one. And then on the back here I have the encyclopedia page that talks about mockingbirds and their ability to attack. So what I'm going to do, because the mockingbird in To Kill a Mockingbird represents Boo Radley, and how we wouldn't want to kill a mockingbird, or we wouldn't want Boo Radley to be exposed to the world because it would be a shame. It would be like killing a mockingbird, which is only about sweet songs and not hurting anyone. The irony that's not talked about in the book or the movie is that mockingbirds are vicious. So if they're vicious, and they're vicious to protect their young, then that makes the analogy even more relevant to Boo Radley, because the only time we know of Boo Radley getting aggressive is when he is defending two kids who've been kind to him, curious about him, and Boo Radley just proves that you don't have to be someone that everybody expects you to be. You don't have to be a certain type of person, that we're all unique and we're all special, and we all have the ability to have compassion and empathy and respect, and we can all defend each other when something just isn't right. So anyway, because of that, I thought I could go the whole mockingbird route and maybe put the quote on this block, but instead, in this little space right here, I'm going to write, "Hey Boo," and when I do that, then I'll seal this block up and it'll be done. So, see you later. Two things I forgot to mention. One, and I'm going to try to do this every time, is talk about what music I've listened to or plan on listening to while I make my blocks. And today it was Sam Cooke, who is one of my favorites. And because the song Change Is Gonna Come always reminds me of To Kill a Mockingbird, the Civil Rights era, today, and Boo Radley and Tom Robinson. So I listened to that today. It was really the right music until Marvin Gaye's Let's Get It On came on. That kind of changed up how I was making my block. Probably when I finish this block, I'll change the Pandora station to something else or put it on Quick Mix. I don't know, but it was a little weird. The other thing that I wanted to mention is about blocks. When I make my blocks and I have multiple sides doing different things, there's always a decision that has to be made about which direction things are going to face. So I've got my bird here. On the back is the encyclopedia page. So you always have to ask, do I want them to both be facing up? How will somebody turn it? Or do I want to have the bird on top, and then when you rotate it, there are the words? And that's what I did this time. You just don't know. If you, like my block 1, it was a seascape wrapped all the way around. People are going to turn it in a very natural way around. They're not really going to flip it up and down, even though I put a top and a bottom. You know how they're going to turn it. When you do a block like this, you don't know if they're going to turn it over, you know, like this, or if they're going to turn it over like this. You just don't know. Later on in the project, I'll be making multiple block projects. Each day I'll make a block. The next day I'll make a coordinating. The next day a coordinating. The next day a coordinating. Yada, yada, yada. And so when you put them together, they're a puzzle block. Those are really, really hard to make. Those frustrate the heck out of me. I'm getting better at them. And one thing I'm looking forward to in this project is getting to where I master them. But you don't know how people are going to turn them. And you want to make it as natural as possible. And that's just hard to do because everyone's going to interact with the block differently. Speaking of interacting with the blocks, one thing that my husband pointed out, and I appreciated that he did, I hadn't really thought of it this way, but he said what he likes about the blocks is they are interactive, especially my puzzle blocks where I have 4 or 6 different blocks in a set. You really do play with them. You turn them, you lift them. They're unlike artwork that you would hang on the wall. They are a piece of artwork that are small enough and interesting enough to turn and to look at and to hold. And I really appreciated him pointing that out because I do that all the time, but I'm the maker. And I've sold these at craft fairs, and it's always nice to see people lift them up and play with them and read them, and they're always a little hesitant, and I do have to tell them it's okay. That's why I seal them, so people can play with them. They're meant to be touched. They're meant to be picked up and turned around, and that's what I love about these blocks too. So the block is finished. I sealed it. Parts are still a little tacky and parts are dry. It came out great. I chose a typewriter font because of the encyclopedia font and because it's a great book. So this is the font that I chose, and it says, "Hey Boo." So let it dry, and then tomorrow morning I'll take the glamour shots and post those. I like how it came out, and I just have to say I think I'm officially done with my bird kick. I don't plan on doing any more blocks with birds. However, I hadn't really planned on doing this block. It just came to me. So, but I think I'm done. I think I'm done with birds for a while. Okay? Somebody told me that Portlandia had an episode that said that if you put a bird on it, it makes it more artistic. Well, that's not why I do the birds, but I think I'm done with the birds.